Good morning, everyone. I'm Todd Davidson, CEO of Travel Oregon. Though I wish we were all able to meet together in person, I'm thrilled to welcome you to the virtual edition of the 36th Annual Oregon Governors Conference on Tourism. We have more than 500 tourism partners joining us at our conference this year from across the state. Hello to Carol Phillips in Baker City. Good morning to Catherine Stevens in Eugene. And hi to Sheila Struble in Lake County. Like much of last year and a half, our conference looks a little different this year. But although the platform has changed, the sense of community, industry pride, and opportunity for growth remain the same. Though I'll admit, I'm going to miss having a night out with all of you. Before we start our opening session, I'd like to provide an overview of the structure of the day. This morning, you'll join us for the opening session that will run until about 11 a.m. We'll then take a break before our interactive breakout sessions that will run from 11:15 a.m. until 1:15 p.m. with a 30-minute lunch break, which is when I hope you'll use those gift cards that'll support local restaurants. I'll provide more details about that at the end of this opening session. And then after the breakout sessions, we'll enter into the closing session, which will run from 1:15 p.m. until about 3 p.m. In order to join your preferred breakout session, all you need to do is just click on the Zoom link for that breakout. You can find that Zoom link on the industry website or on the attendee Zoom link PDF that you received by email. We'd love for you to engage with the presenters and the fellow attendees and ask questions throughout the day. Please use the chat function to do that. We'll keep the Q&A function focused on technical questions for the conference planning team. Sending us a message through there will help us help you with any technical difficulties that you may be experiencing. One feature that we're using during this year's meeting is the use of closed captioning. We feel that this is an important step in supporting both the statewide and Travel Oregon's diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. You can turn the captions on or off using the button located on your Zoom bar. If you have any challenges with the captioning, please just drop a note in the Q&A section and a technician will be able to assist you. As we begin, we would like to acknowledge the many tribes and bands who call Oregon their ancestral territory, including Burns Paiute of Harney County, the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians, Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Indians, Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, Confederated Tribes of the Siletz, Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, Confederated Tribes of Umatilla Reservation, the Coquille Indian Tribe, and Klamath Tribes. We honor the ongoing relationship between the land, the plants, the animals, and people indigenous to this place that we now call Oregon. We recognize the continued sovereignty of the 9 federally recognized tribes who have ties to this place and thank them for continuing to teach us how we might all be here together. The pandemic has impacted transportation systems across the globe. Border closures and restrictions on air travel affected revenues for airports, airlines, and others. The Portland International Airport was no exception, experiencing decreased passenger volume and cargo traffic. However, their commitment to public health and business services never wavered as they put processes in place to protect their passengers and ensure their partnerships and businesses would be resilient throughout the pandemic. If you've recently flown, you've seen it in practice. With their clear signage, strong customer service, and local Oregon businesses lining the terminals to welcome Oregon visitors as they enter the state, and doing all of this through a major infrastructure project. With that, it's my pleasure to welcome David Zielke, the Director of Air Service Development, to provide a welcome and an update from our very close partners at the Port of Portland.
Good morning. Welcome to all of you from across the state that represent Oregon's tourism industry. All of us at the Port appreciate what you do every day, making Oregon truly a world-class tourism industry for the state of Oregon. Working along people like Bobby Connor from the Temusclet Cultural Institute, Danielle Tahama from the Willamette Valley Visitor Association, and Erica Sears from the Oregon Coast Visitor Association are emblematic of what represents our industry today. And we share in everything that they do to make Oregon a world-class attraction. We also share your commitment to reducing barriers and creating opportunities for communities of color and people with disabilities. It's been a difficult year, but I bring optimism and a lot of good news here today. Just this last weekend, 81,000 people used PDX, the biggest four-day period since March of 2020. So we're back. The airplanes are full. The airport is full of people. Our concessions are open. And we're really excited about what's going on at PDX right now. Lots of flights have been added over the summer: New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., lots of flights to California. On the Europe side, we will have 3 flights from Europe this summer: Frankfurt with Condor, Reykjavik with Icelandair, and Amsterdam with Delta. And these 3 flights will bring visitors from throughout Europe and the UK into Oregon and the 4 corners of the state. We're really excited about what's going on the Asia side. Delta has announced they're going to be bringing a nonstop flight from Seoul, Korea. Delta and its SkyTeam partners, including Korean Airlines, have built a world-class airport at the new Incheon Airport. And there's going to be flights coming into that airport from throughout Asia, including China, the world's fastest growing aviation market. And once they get on that plane from Seoul, Korea, on that A330-200, it's a new generation aircraft, they'll be coming into the nonstop, into PDX, and then clearing customs, and then heading out to all corners of the state. So we're very excited about that ongoing commitment from Delta Airlines. So in addition to all the new service, you may not have been to PDX over the last year, so you may not know what's going on at PDX. Lots of things. We're making it bigger. We're making it better. And we are really excited about the new designs that were inspired from our region. There's a more open design. It's the roofline from the outside, which was inspired by the water, the Pacific Northwest. When you get inside and see the new inside of the airport, it's like walking in the Oregon forest. Actually, it was designed by people that were walking in Oregon forest and inspired them to bring that into how we're developing PDX. Lots of trees, lots of plants in the new terminal, lots of shops, which are local Oregon concepts, which is part of our iconic brand, which people love about PDX. We've got really a neighborhood feeling with more seating, making it comfortable, kind of being in your family room with friends and family, enjoying Oregon food and Oregon shops. And yes, what would PDX be without the carpet? We have some of the old carpet in the new airport, and you'll be able to take selfies and send them to friends and family around the world. Thank you again for all you do every day to make Oregon a truly world-class destination. I can't wait to see all of you in person. Thank you.
As our largest metropolitan area in the state and the home of Portland International Airport, the Portland region is one of our key tourism partners, as it is the hub to many visitors' experience in Oregon. Oregon has indeed felt the impact of the past year across every region, county, and city in the state, whether it be from the pandemic, devastating wildfires, or racial inequities and tensions. However, one city in particular, Portland, has been hit the hardest and has seen it all. As summer begins, we're seeing fans returning to Blazers, Timbers, and Thorns games, the Saturday market reopening, and downtown offices and businesses starting to see more traffic. We're inspired and excited to see Portland's hub of activity restart and welcome visitors again. And we thank Travel Portland for hosting this year's tourism conference. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce Jeff Miller, President and CEO of Travel Portland, to provide us with his words of welcome. Jeff?
Thanks so much, Todd. I'm thrilled to welcome everyone, albeit virtually, to Portland. Even though we cannot all be together in person quite yet, I'm heartened by and compelled to speak about Portland's untiring commitment to, simply put, showing up. In a year plus of unprecedented change and obstacles, Portland showed up with innovative pivots and collaboration between local business owners. Portland showed up with mouthwatering takeout and thoughtful outdoor dining options. Portland showed up with exceptional new art, new food carts, and new stores, establishing themselves during a year that cannot be described as anything less than difficult. And yes, the people of Portland showed up for the Black Lives Matter movement, taking to the streets for 100 consecutive days, with work and activism that continues today and into the months ahead. While a very small group of destructive agitators have captured media attention, the wanton actions of a relative few should not overshadow the tireless dedication to justice and equality of the many. The untold story is this. Overwhelmingly, Portland's peaceful protesters show up for needed change, and we share many of the same hopes and goals with them that move our work forward in the tourism industry. To that end, we are not ashamed, afraid, or averse to Portland's show-up spirit. In fact, we celebrate it. Travel Portland's newly instated values statement includes the following. We hold ourselves accountable for making diversity, equity, and inclusion more than just words. With that, we are so fortunate to have James Jesse, Travel Portland's Chief Sales Officer, as a leader in this work. I look forward to everyone learning more about his and our greater team's vital DEI efforts during the closing session on building an equitable tourism economy for the future. On the home front, Travel Portland is, of course, focused on how we can best show up for the tourism industry and foster a return to travel. Research shows that as vaccine rollout continues, many people are eager for travel. Portland's favorite local events are finding safe and creative ways to resume, including the Portland Saturday Market and the upcoming Waterfront Blues Festival at the Lot at Zydell Yards. With that, we are excited to showcase the Lot at Zydell Yards outdoor event venue, as well as the 10Y commercial space for an equitable economy during this morning's 15-minute break. Be sure to attend, as there will be an opportunity to win one of 2 fantastic overnight prizes. We are working hard to support growing travel demands and have good news to share. Travel Portland has re-engaged regional marketing campaigns, resumed critical work with national agencies, and recently confirmed 2 sizable events for 2024 and 26 that will result in more than 9,600 room nights collectively. Today, I began with a virtual welcome to Portland. Now I end with an invitation. As less urban destinations were able to better accommodate options for COVID-friendly travel in the past year, Oregon's tourism in the metropolitan areas of Eugene, Salem, and Portland have been among the hardest hit. When it was safe to do so, many Portlanders were enthusiastic and thoughtful patrons of regions all throughout the state. Now is the time, in turn, to support our cities, and within our cities, support our hotels, our restaurants, our parks, and our attractions. Portland is ready for visitors, and when you are ready to be one, we encourage you to reacquaint yourself with the Portland you know and love alongside all that's new, exciting, and always forward-thinking in our great city. Portland is ready to welcome you. All you need to do is show up.
Thanks, Jeff. We're here today to look towards the future and to envision Oregon's tourism industry moving forward. We want to ensure we support and rebuild the tourism economy that has been significantly impacted by the pandemic, while also setting our compass on a direction that's going to guide us into the future. To provide the background and context for this discussion, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker today, Frank Cuypers, Senior Strategist with Destination Think. Continuing strategy, data, creative communication services, and the like, Destination Think is recognized globally as a leader in executing outstanding destination solutions. Last November, Travel Oregon opened a request for proposal for a qualified dynamic firm to guide comprehensive processes in the area of strategic planning, organizational design, and business process review. Destination Think has been awarded the contract to carry out this important work with us and you, the Oregon tourism industry. The firm is a global leader in the tourism industry and works in partnership with destination management organizations to help develop visions, solve business challenges, and execute campaigns. I'm honored and excited for Frank to join us today virtually from the Netherlands. Frank?
Hi, everybody. My name is Frank Cuypers. I'm a senior strategist at Destination Think, which is a company that has its roots in Canada, but is very international. As you can hear, we have offices in Europe, offices in Australia, and of course in the United States. And today I'm here to talk to you about the future of tourism after COVID-19. What I want to do is take you on a tour around the globe for, let's say, the first 10 minutes and just give you a lot of examples how other destinations try to transform, try to be ready for the future, and how they envision that future. And what have they done during that crisis? And then I really want to focus on three major challenges. One is the economical challenge. The second one is the social challenge, which becomes more and more important, especially in the United States. And the third one, the last but not the least, is about the environmental challenge. But before we start, at the end of the first global crisis during my life and perhaps your life, I think our thoughts should be with those who suffered personal losses, those whose businesses are impacted, which is actually the case for the most people that work in the tourism industry. We all lived in uncertain times, and we can only hope that we have learned lessons from it to build back and to build better for the future. Let's start our tour of the world with two very famous places. This is Venice. This is Venice during the lockdown, and as you can see, empty canals, empty streets. That is the most probably noticed example of the entire planet. And the second one is a place that is very dear to my heart. This is Berlin, capital of Germany. Very, very busy and very vibrant city. And look how they look during the lockdown. We see empty lanes, empty streets. It's an abandoned city. Now, before the pandemic, these cities looked different, right? This is Venice before the pandemic, and what you see is a dire situation. This is a city where the residents push back. They were actually turning against cruise ship tourism because we call that extracting tourism. People that come only for 3-4 hours and all of them taking the same picture at the same place at the same time. So there's a lot of visitor pressure on the city. And residents feel pushed out. The second example is Berlin, and it was almost the same. You see the protests, you see the slogans. And this really is actually an ouch moment for myself because I studied Berlin a lot of times. It's a city where tourism has been reinvented. They came up with new cool products like new type of museums, the Currywurst Museum, for instance, or new types of accommodation, urban camping on roofs and bunker tourism and all these cool things. But too much is too much, and residents pushed back. They were angry because they could not afford houses anymore. So it's a housing problem, it's a gentrification problem again. So during the beginning of the pandemic, we saw photos of clear water and fish into the canal, and all that went even more viral than the virus itself. Not only as a sign of something residents had not seen in a long time, but also as a proof of the damage caused not only by the wave movement, but most of all by human activity, by over-tourism. So Venice started to experiment with, for instance, revolving doors at the entrance of the San Marco Square. They are now talking about reducing the speed of boats. They're talking about banning cruise ships. They're talking about going from a mono economy, because that's really the root of their problem, to dependent on tourism, into a multi-economy. And in Berlin, during COVID-19, they did what they always do, right? Culture. They have 180 museums, 7 symphonic orchestras. They have 3 very crazy opera houses. So what is the brand of Berlin? It's culture, 24 hours a day, 7 days in a week. Now they wrote a strategy to come out of COVID-19, a rebuild strategy. And they say in that strategy, and I quote, "We don't dare to admit that we don't think we even need promotion because the people will come anyway. They've waited so long for freedom, for travel and movement, but also for culture." So Berlin is going to stop promote the city, as by the way Amsterdam is doing, and Venice. Now, I can give you, in my tour around the world, examples that are exactly the opposite. Take, for instance, the Alp countries, Austria and, for most, Switzerland. Switzerland is the opposite. The carrying capacity and the support for tourism is huge there. There is no pushback, hardly any pushback from local residents. How does that come? Because they have that famous stakeholder model and they take it very serious. They put a lot of effort as a DMO, as a national DMO, in stakeholders. Not only the big guys, not only the big players, but also family companies, smaller businesses. So their definition of tourism, and that is very important to understand, their definition of tourism is broader, right? For them, tourism is an intersection of all experiences a visitor can have. It's about sports, transport, accommodation. It's about the culinary stuff, but it's equally about the residents and how they relate to tourism. So this is a destination that partners with the big national brands. I don't know a second example like them. So they have, and I'm just trying to improvise because I don't know it by heart, but they partner with Gruyere cheese and Toblerone chocolate, Swiss knife. They all go for the same brand value. This is a destination of no drama.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, Roger, how are you?
Just relaxing in the Swiss Alps. Take a look.
Yeah, it's good for you. Listen, about the Switzerland film you want me to do,
Yeah, did you see the mood film I sent you?
I'm watching it as we speak. I don't like it.
What?
Just look at where you are, Roger. I mean, you got your mountains, your skiing resorts, your charming little towns, your green valleys. There's no drama. No drama at all.
Seriously? But did you see the bits with the sunset?
Roger, from a certain type of actor, I need an edge, conflict, jeopardy. Switzerland is just too perfect. Ah, sorry, Roger. Maybe call Hanks.
Who?
Now let's go to the United States. Great example is Baltimore. Now, they use the COVID-19 pandemic to rethink their strategy, and they were reshaping their brand, thinking and reflecting on racial equity. And they launched a brand, they call it a prismatic brand, and they co-created that brand with all their communities, with the residents, and they engaged in that process poets, slam poets, musicians. And they offered free DEI training for the entire hospitality industry, from the bellman to the taxi driver to the CEO. And for those who think that it is hard to measure all these so-called soft measures, Baltimore is one of these destinations that constantly monitor progress by measuring sentiment of their residents and visitors online and offline. All the examples I gave during the tour of the world are not to impress or to overwhelm you, and I could have given many, many more, but you will see a pattern that is showing up. It's not about change. It's about the pace of change that is radically accelerating. And it's accelerating in three fields: economics, social, and environmental. Now let's start focusing on the first big challenge, the first construction site, as I call it. It's about thriving economically. Thriving economically is certainly not anymore only filling beds with heads and seats with bums. Volume-driven tourism will not only impact nature in a negative way, it will not only impact communities and the local population in a negative way, but it will impact, and that is the biggest threat, tourism itself. As negative sentiment will keep growing. And what is a bigger risk for the tourism industry than unhappy residents, and as a consequence, unhappy visitors. Moreover, occupancy rates as the only indicator is not only something that totally undermines your own economical ecosystem, it's also not very smart. It's not smart thinking, as every entrepreneur and every businessman or woman knows that what really drives a brand is the time and money you invest in the relationship with both your potential and your existing customer, and in this case, your visitors. So the bottom line is, treat your tourists as consumers and they will consume your place, but treat your tourists as guests and they will respect you as a host. So let's zoom in how other destinations deal with this, and let's start with a city with a very strong brand in Europe, in a region of our planet where the free market originated. It's Amsterdam. And Amsterdam decided to integrate the donut economy model. The donut, or donut economics, is a visual framework for sustainable development. It's shaped like a donut, as you can see, although I like to think about it as a life belt. It's combining the concept of planetary boundaries with the complementary concept of social boundaries. And the name derives, of course, from the shape of the model. Now, the inventor, the economist who came up with this model, Kate Raworth from the UK, explains the donut economy as a model that is based on the premise that humanity's 21st century challenge is to meet the needs of all within the means of the planet. So the donut of social and planetary boundaries is a new framing of that challenge, and it acts as a compass for human progress this century. So the donut model is actually about a foundation, a minimal growth, and a ceiling, a maximal growth. So it's a growth model, but not growth at any cost. Amsterdam will imply these principles on a city level, but on their tourism economy as well. Now, 2 other cities in the United States accepted this model in 2019. The first one was Philadelphia at the East Coast, and the second is Portland in Oregon. And if someone listens to this and knows more about it, I'm very curious how it evolves and how it will continue. But you don't need to think in economical models. One destination that has been doing this already for a long time is the capital of Denmark. It's Copenhagen. And years ago, I think 6-7 years ago, I helped Sine Jongerstedt writing her strategy, The End of Tourism as We Know It. Now, that is often misunderstood. Each time I had to present it in Canada, the United States, or each time she had to present it, because people think, end of tourism, they're gonna stop with tourism. The Europeans are shutting their borders. Not so. On the contrary, what this strategy wanted to say is, this is the end of treating people like tourists. We're gonna treat our visitors as temporary residents. This is really about balance. Balancing the experience for both the local populations as for the visitor. So the pending question, the starting point of that strategy was, how do you take advantage of the growth in tourism and not be taken over by mass tourism? So what Copenhagen did is indicating quiet zones for residents, so tour guides don't speak about it. And it's actually a bit the same what you do in Oregon with very vulnerable, beautiful places like Smith Rock Park, right? It's also prohibited for foreigners to buy cottages at the sea, and they're very strict about it, because if they don't do that, everything will be bought by affluent Germans, Dutch or French people, and the Danish people have in their constitution the right of fresh sea air. And of course, they're very known for their famous bicycle-friendly transportation system, And absolutely it's the purpose to get all tourists on a bike as well. And an important success factor of the strategy is the local citizen support. They co-created that strategy from in the beginning, and I speak of dozens, maybe hundreds of workshops. And what wonderful Copenhagen did as one of the first DMOs is introduce frequent measurements of the sentiment of locals towards visitors, and also to identify the friction points and directing efforts at mitigating them. So the strategy actually placed people at the center of their vision, and it imagined that Copenhagen's future will be co-created by residents, industry, and visitors, and they still do. How to measure success of such a strategy? Well, success will not be measured only by the amount of hotel bookings, for instance. There will be now a focus on spend and on increasing the average length of stay, and especially on repeat visitation. So, probably not directly, but indirectly by word of mouth. So, the core of their strategy is once attracted, twice valued. And nevertheless, don't forget, this strategy sets ambitious goals for the growth in the number of travelers for Copenhagen. It's a very interesting development compared to many other places on the planet. That brings us to the second construction side, as I call it, the second big challenge. That's the social challenge. And actually that challenge has two lanes. First, how can tourism add value to the local population? But that's what the Copenhagen example, that's what the Amsterdam example showed. That is really being serious at the core about engagement of your residents. That's what I believe in. That's what my company does believe. The clients I work with, Montana, Indiana, Colorado, Ottawa, Calgary, British Columbia, clients in Australia, Japan as a country, Malawi as a country, we always start with the residents. But there is a second lane, a second zone, and that is the question, can tourism contribute to society through the lens of racial equity, DEI, social justice, spreading the benefits over different communities, and even reconciliation? So last year, Auckland won the Place Brand of the Year prize in London, and it was given by an organization called the Place Brand Observer, and we co-created their brand by working closely with the Maori population. Now, Auckland has an economic organization in those days called ATID, now Auckland United. And that organization really dared to question itself. And it was constantly analyzing the normalization of antiquated beliefs we all have, and that are perpetuated in a routine that for too long has gone unquestioned. How we have been socialized to function must be reimagined as well. So what we did is in-person workshops. Some of them with mixed audiences, some with only members of the Maori communities. Now, using the right words, using the right semantics is one part of true engagement, but it will not happen, nothing will happen without personal contact. The members of these workshops were very motivated, as they said themselves, by the connectivity and the synergy that happens during the in-person sessions. But also, equally true, about the actionable items that came out all of this. Now, we applied the same principles of co-creation in another place in New Zealand called Bay of Plenty. We co-created with them a strategy called Tourism with Purpose. And in the heart of the strategy is also the Maori way of thinking. We applied the 7 generations principle that is also very known among the indigenous population in North America. So everything you do is for the good and benefit of the 7 next generations. This is also about holistic thinking. There is no concept in that strategy that opposes nature to culture. Culture is nature and nature is culture. Their museum is the forest. and the forest is a museum containing the souls of their ancestors. Creating such a strategy together with the indigenous community is only possible if you invest a lot during a long time in building true and honest relationships. It's also about the courage to question your segmentation. Who are you going to invite? As we too often see people in tourism as beings that want to do stuff, right? They want to hike and bike and mountain bike and what have you. But the people we wanted to attract to connect with the local community, with the Maori population, is the one who wants to be immersed in local stories. And they are different. They are rather cultural explorers. So this strategy, tourism with purpose, implies investment in heritage, in local storytelling, in creating jobs for these communities, but also very tangible items. For instance, the commitment only to sell local souvenirs and nothing cheap created in a place far, far away, or invest in a training program for indigenous entrepreneurs. Last but not least, the third construction site, the third big challenge, environment. And we could have picked Costa Rica with their famous eco-strategy and the famous cleanups, or Greenland that did a fantastic job by promoting their place as why Greenland may be not for you. This is a campaign, right? But they're weaving in the messaging here already education towards potential visitors. But I'm going to pick another place. It's a country. It's again European. It's Slovenia. And those who do not know Slovenia, it's a bit mini Europe. In a nutshell, they have everything that Europe has to offer, going from medieval towns to the coastal experience. It's just right under Venice, their beaches, the mountains, food, wine. But their strategy is very strict and they stick to their core value, green, being green. So one of the major assets they really promote is eco-lodges. And they're probably one of the first destinations that did it on such a big scale. So a lodge, like you see here, will easily cost you 500-600 euros, so slightly more in US dollars a night. But their targeted audience is exactly affluent families from urban places in North Europe, Belgians, Dutch, French, Germans. And then they invented, if you can call it that way, tourism experiences like beehive tourism. Just look it up at the internet. They're quite serious about it and it's very successful because these young urban kids, they think even that strawberries grow in a fridge. Last but not least, the capital of Slovenia, Ljubljana, was awarded as the most green capital of Europe. One of the things they do is local transport. So they have the Cavalier, and it's a local train, electric, that constantly drives around the city. And it's for free, and you can hop on, hop off. So ecotourism is catering for tourists wishing to experience the natural environment without damaging or without disturbing habitats. So it's a form of tourism involving responsible travel to natural areas, not only conserving the environment, but also improving the well-being of the local people. But that's only half of the story. When we speak about environmental value, there is another big segment on the rise, the target group of low-impact travelers. They're a bit different. They are simply looking to pursue their passions in a less harmful way. So a lot of these people are driven by guilt. This is the fastest growing niche on the planet. According to Nielsen, famous research company from the United States, Gen Zers, young people, want to invest more money in meaningful experiences, in the do good, do not harm, the do not leave traces kind of tourism. So to the low-impact traveler, doing no harm while doing what you love, photography or bird watching, rock climbing, visiting museums, that is the objective. So they are very conscientious people. They spend considerable time researching a destination, focusing on reputation, in respect to sustainability, and all that with minimal impact. Unfortunately, research has shown that the USA, although still number 25 on the ranking of sustainable countries, has a very bad reputation in the segments of eco-tourists and low-impact travelers. There is an exception though. Within the USA, there is one state that really has caught attention worldwide, and that's your neighbor, that's Colorado. Colorado applies the principles of no traces left in their parks. That's not the only thing they did. They launched the Care for Colorado campaign and a website, and they invested in development, and they invested in signage. So, it's not only on a state level. What is happening is a lot of places in Colorado support this brand. So, reimagining the future, transforming tourism economically, socially, and environmentally is not easy. But these are the three main challenges for the future of tourism. Now, some people will argue it's very difficult to combine these three. Sometimes they even seem to oppose each other. I will give you one last example where you see how these three important challenges seamlessly come together in a thriving, flourishing place where economic growth, local community, and the care for nature go hand in hand. That place is Whakatane in New Zealand, and it's probably one of the places with the highest density of Maori population in the entire country. Now, years ago, someone from the USA, Neil Hutton, and credit to him for this photo, came to Whakatane. And one of his major observations is that the kiwi bird was already dying out. There were only a few kiwi birds left. And he became a ranger for the Whirinaki forest, very famous forest. And he wanted to set up a program to save the kiwi bird. So what he did is installing a training program. One of the problems for kiwi birds is dogs. So the kiwi bird for centuries had no predators. So they do not have an instinct to run away. Now there are dogs coming with settlers and suddenly they play with kiwi birds. They don't know how to defend themselves, they don't run away, and they get wounded or they die. That's not the only thing they did. Another thing is a zoning plan. So there are only certain zones where people can walk to see the kiwi birds. Signage everywhere. You find everywhere signs about how important the kiwi bird is. How did they fund all this? By tourism. So what they did is a very exclusive, expensive, small-scale tourism product. So local community, Maori people, Maori guides, they are leading visitors with a high motivation to places where kiwi birds hide at dawn or at sunset. This is what we call restorative tourism. This is tourism that really heals a place. The local community benefits from it. Nature benefits from it. It's one of the most beautiful examples I know. Now, let's talk about Oregon. Oregon is a place, it's a state, right? Every place has a life cycle. Life cycle means you go through boom and bust cycles. A place is a living thing, right? So just as a product, you have a starting or introduction phase, you have a maturing phase, you have the top of your curve, then you might go down, and then you need to act. Oregon did a wonderful job over the last 20 years. It's one of the strongest brands and one of the fastest growing brands in the USA. Like 2 weeks ago, I saw a piece of research that Portland is the third most desired city for a city trip after the pandemic. I'm not surprised. When I traveled along the West Coast, My kids absolutely wanted to see Portland, and I was like, why Portland? It's a cool brand. It's very attractive for young urban kids of Europe, right? But there is also a danger, as some places in Oregon might grow more quickly than other places. So if there is a disproportion between places that have a lot of attraction and other places probably less, then you need to think about dispersal. That is what we call managing a destination. Now look at this chart. Your success, a brand that is growing so quickly, also involves some risks. Because if you grow quickly, you might probably become too generic because your niches do not catch up, and you really need to segment audiences and build niche reputations. On the other side, if your reputation grows too quickly, it's also quite possible that your development can't keep pace, and then you need to develop and promote differentiating niches. So the hard message is here, what we have seen in all the examples, what we feel in the three big challenges, what comes first is community. Community is a true foundation of everything you're going to do. On top of that, there is management, bringing different elements together. Be proactive. Be proactive about visitor pressure. Be proactive about helping people. Community and management are the strategic foundation of everything you are going to do. Is there still place and room left for marketing? Yes, of course, but that comes on top of everything else you are doing. Here I want to wrap up with a call to action. Because if tourism is to get different, and if tourism wants better outcomes, then there has to be openness to try different and better strategies, to experiment with other tactics. And community well-being really calls for decidedly different thinking, and it calls for new approaches. So, in fact, the situation every place on the globe faces now is so challenging after the crisis that we probably need everyone to lay down their tools for a while, turn to each other, look each other in the eyes and say, these are our skills, these are our resources, how can we help? So the answers may be surprising, but times like these call for unconventional methods. What would be different if tourism's priority were community well-being in its own right, with full understanding of what that requires? What would change if we fully acknowledge the severity and the urgency of all humanity's plight? Social tensions, sustainability, and if tourism stepped up to serve whatever it took. So here is my personal view, here's what I see. If tourism is truly to be of net benefit, if it's to contribute to healing of people and place, then the sector will need to reconnect with its root in the vocation of hosting. If you're able to do that, there is a lot of hope and there is a bright future ahead of you. If tourism authorities in particular are to respond appropriately and sufficiently to the challenges you face, then they will need to develop the skill set, not only of marketing, not only of management, but the skill set of connecting and cultivating the hosting community. And these are my last words. You will need to host the hosts. I thank you so much for listening to my voice and my accent, and I really hope after the pandemic that we will be able to meet in the physical world. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. I'm both humbled and confident for the journey ahead as Travel Oregon dives deeper into our work with Destination Think to discover how we can be the ultimate hosts. As I begin, I must take a moment to say thank you to the thousands of Oregonians who make up Oregon's tourism industry. Frontline hospitality workers, line cooks, guides and outfitters, baristas, museum curators, bartenders, lodging operators, destination management organizations, and so many more. I'm also grateful to the Oregon Tourism Commission for their guidance and vision always, of course, and especially through the past 15 months. Under their leadership, we were able to release a multi-million-dollar suite of investments to support industry partners through grants, develop a virtual training platform, and create a fall-winter advertising campaign that will launch later this year, that will showcase the special events, people, and cultures that make Oregon a magical place to visit and to live. Finally, I'll take a moment to recognize Oregon's healthcare workers who work tirelessly to ensure that our families, our friends, our neighbors stayed safe and could receive medical care. Thank you for everything you did for Oregonians this year. It's indeed been a long road, rife with loss, challenges, and setbacks. The tourism industry has been impacted disproportionately by the pandemic, with leisure and business travel dropping to never-before-seen levels, and businesses navigating closures and ever-changing safety protocols. Yet amidst the adversity have been opportunities to persevere, evaluate, learn, and grow. With the number of fully vaccinated Oregonians increasing and many Oregon counties moving to that lower risk category, it feels like we are slowly moving through to the other side of the COVID-19 pandemic. From the onset of the pandemic, Travel Oregon has been leveraging our brand and platforms to communicate safety messaging, including when and how to travel safely, support local businesses, and how to reopen responsibly. Travel Oregon is a brand steward for our beautiful state and a trusted resource for visitors and Oregonians alike. As folks continue to venture out and explore Oregon's diverse and scenic landscapes and downtowns, we want their trip to be safe and memorable, and for visitors and locals to help sustain the state's natural resources for generations to come. Encouraging informed and intentional visitor behavior through proactive messaging is key to ensuring stewardship is a focal point for our programming agency-wide. I'd like to invite Travel Oregon's Hillary Sager to share some more about this work.
As we welcome visitors to Oregon again, Travel Oregon continues to embrace our destination management role, rallying around our outdoor places that are experiencing unprecedented high use, our communities that have been impacted by wildfire, and the heart of this industry, the businesses that make up our rural main streets and urban centers. We know that Oregon's natural beauty and world-class outdoor spaces continue to inspire visitation to our state. We also understand that these natural resources are not limitless and must be carefully stewarded to preserve them for the enjoyment of generations to come. Guided by this vision and in close partnership with key stakeholders, we launched Take Care Out There in February 2020, providing the industry a communication toolkit to promote responsible recreation and support opportunities for health, connection, and joy in Oregon's outdoors. Through the pandemic, the Take Care Out There toolkit evolved to inform Oregonians about how to safely and considerately visit the outdoors. Working with our partners, we help set expectations and guide visitor behavior at hard-hit places like Crater Lake and the North Coast. The COVID-19 pandemic is not the only crisis our industry has faced. Each year, the wildfire season seems to grow longer and more severe, with the fire event of last September being the worst in our collective memory. Using the relationships we've built with natural resource management agencies, we've seen new collectives form, bringing agencies together to wade through these challenges and find solutions, like creating an unprecedented interagency mapping tool that helps visitors know which recreation sites are open and closed, or designing new ways to share information about how to visit areas impacted by wildfire, and funding innovative regenerative tourism projects. On the business side, we are doubling down on efforts to make sure businesses can be resilient, not just during the pandemic, but in the face of any challenge thrown their way. Travel Oregon is investing in businesses through virtual marketing trainings, grant dollars, and connecting resources to key groups like our tour operators, guides, and outfitters, and businesses along food and farm trails. And as visitors seek solace in Oregon's outdoors in increasing numbers, we are helping them to also find comfort in Oregon's gateway communities, so the impact of increased visitation is not only felt on the trails, but also on the bottom line of nearby breweries, art galleries, coffee shops, rental companies, and lodging properties. Our organizational commitment to business support and destination management was put to the test this past year. In the process of reimagining the old playbook, we are realizing that the opportunity is in our hands to write a new one, and we're just getting started.
Thank you, Hillary. A key outcome of Travel Oregon's work is to ensure that Oregon's destinations and outdoor places are stewarded and sustained. It's through the strong partnerships and innovative programs that Hillary just spoke to that I am confident that together as a unified tourism industry, we will look back someday and be proud of the solutions we were able to be part of to keep Oregon, Oregon for generations to come. As we work to ensure Oregon places and outdoors are stewarded, it's also paramount that we honor and celebrate Oregon's diverse people and cultures. 2 years ago at the Governor's Conference in Eugene, Travel Oregon adopted its first ever equity statement and a vision for a better life for all Oregonians through strong, sustainable local communities that welcome a diversity of explorers. Little did we know what the second half of the biennium would bring: a pandemic, social unrest, and historic wildfires, all putting our equity statement and vision to the test. I'm proud of how each of us in Oregon's travel and tourism industry from every corner of the state have shown up, cared deeply, and supported one another in these trying times. And I recognize that in order for us to continue to be strong and resilient, we must lean into this equity statement more, build more authentic relationships with Oregon's communities of color, and uplift all Oregonians that make up our rich and diverse tourism workforce. Frank spoke to how rebuilding and transforming go hand in hand with connecting and cultivating. To truly transform our industry, we need to return to the fundamentals of what tourism is and re-examine our role as hosts and stewards of this place and community we call home. So today, as we seize upon the work of reconceiving a vision of tourism in Oregon, we have the opportunity to be radically transformational in defining our approaches to serving one another, our communities, and the lands and waters that we have the privilege to promote and the responsibility to preserve. And to do the work necessary to fully rebuild Oregon's economy, it must be done with racial equity and inclusion at the forefront of the decisions that guide our work. We've heard from our industry partners and have witnessed firsthand how the tourism industry has experienced the most severe impacts from the pandemic. We know that in Oregon, nearly 47% of the jobs lost in 2020 were in the leisure and hospitality sector. Visitor spending in Oregon was $6.5 billion in 2020, a nearly 50% decline over 2019. And state and local tax revenues were $350 million, a 43% decrease year over year. While we are seeing the impacts of COVID-19 begin to lighten on the tourism industry, we also continue to operate in a highly fluid and uncertain economic climate. This means continuously evaluating a multitude of scenarios. To be responsive and intentional in this environment, and to grasp the opportunity to reevaluate and refocus the agency to support the tourism industry, Travel Oregon launched a two-step strategic planning approach, one that focused on short-term rebuilding and investing in key opportunities to restore, and this is our 2021-23 Rebuild Strategic Plan and Budget. The second is a longer-range vision, allowing us to expand our rebuild plan into a transformational plan that extends to 2025 and allows us more time for robust industry engagement to ensure that this work is integrated across the state through a racial equity lens. While rethinking the future may sound daunting, it is also an exciting opportunity for us for regrowth and transformation, making our industry more resilient and a more relevant economic driver. The 2021-23 Rebuild Plan and Budget was approved and adopted by the Oregon Tourism Commission yesterday. We see the purpose of this plan to lead and support the rebuilding of Oregon's tourism industry and economic recovery while balancing priorities in a way that benefits both residents and visitors and lays the foundation for the Transformational Strategic Plan. The rebuild strategic imperatives include leading with a racial equity lens, rebuilding statewide economic impact, supporting and empowering Oregon's tourism industry, championing the value of tourism, and running as an effective business. The desired outcomes that we aim to achieve include a racial equity lens is being applied to our work to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion. The tourism industry remains a viable contributor to the state's economy as the rate of recovery of visitor spending statewide is equitable across regions and greater than Oregon's competitive set. Visitors follow public health and safety regulations and respect communities, cultures, and the outdoors. Oregon's destinations and outdoor places are stewarded and sustained, and the full engagement of staff and tourism industry partners for transformational planning processes continue. As we shift from crisis strategies to rebuild strategies, we will continue to recognize the magnitude of what the tourism industry has experienced during the pandemic. Born out of these challenges is the opportunity for growth and the responsibility to re-examine the role of tourism in the future of Oregon's economy. We are seeing visitors shift their behaviors, some of which may become permanent. Changes in lodging preferences, choosing road trips over flights, and interest in adding volunteer or regenerative opportunities as part of their trip. We're also seeing impacts of climate change with more extreme weather patterns and longer and more intense wildfire seasons. And we have the long overdue need to put conversations and policies against racial injustice at the forefront of all of our decisions. Over the past year, we've been engaging in conversations about the future of Travel Oregon, our role, our metrics, and our programming. We've asked for feedback on the challenges our industry stakeholders are facing at the local level and what type of work they want to see their state agency lead. We received more than 1,200 responses through a survey in October last year, and it was wonderful to hear from so many of you. We also hosted a series of more in-depth engagement sessions in partnership with the regional destination management organizations in March, and received feedback on the Rebuild Strategic Plan through a public comment period. It's important for us to ask for constructive feedback and to hear from the communities we serve on how we can do better. Before the pandemic, Oregon's tourism industry had 10 years of consecutive growth. We launched award-winning marketing campaigns, led destination development programs statewide, and helped inspire visitors to spend their vacations in Oregon. However, over the past few years, we've also seen our industry face other challenges. Increased use has impacted some wild and scenic areas, and some of our workforce is having a difficult time finding affordable housing in the communities where they work. This year, we've had the opportunity to self-reflect on who we are and what we do as hosts and how we get it done. I'll be honest and share some of our key learnings. While we adopted an equity statement 2 years ago, we should have had one in place for decades. And we should have been programming our work through a racial equity lens from the beginning. The Take Care Out There visitor management messaging should have been created following the immense success of our 7 Wonders of Oregon campaign. But I will add that I am proud of the Oregon tourism industry for showing up and communicating what they needed, telling us what type of leadership they're looking for, and I'm proud of Travel Oregon for listening. We've reflected on our work and our past, and we can clearly say that we are committed to being open and responsive to change, and we are committed to you. The next 6 months as we build this transformational strategy will be critical to Travel Oregon's future, and we invite you to join us on this journey. I see today's Governor's Conference serving as a pivotal moment in time as the kickoff of our journey together towards our longer-term transformational plan that will guide Oregon tourism through 2025. Later today, at the conclusion of the conference, a stakeholder transformational planning workshop will take place with Destination Think. Registrants of this workshop will dive into some of the tough and exciting questions that are before us. How does tourism contribute to a better life for all Oregonians? How can travel better enhance communities and contribute to equitable livability? How do we create more economic resilience for our diverse workforce? This workshop is just the beginning for our transformational conversation. There will be stakeholder engagement opportunities taking place across the state this fall, including focus groups, co-creation labs, and an equity assessment. Your participation this fall in these engagement opportunities for our transformational planning process are paramount to ensuring your voices are heard and responded to. We ask you to join us through this evolution, and thank you for your insight, wisdom, and thoughtfulness as we enter into a new future for Oregon's tourism industry together. As I noted earlier, ensuring all voices and perspectives are represented in the totality of our work is something we should have prioritized long ago. Travel Oregon is, however, committed to applying a racial equity lens to our work moving forward. As part of the tourism industry, it is inherent on us to help ensure that Oregon is a place where all who travel the state, Oregonians and guests alike, enjoy their journey and feel welcome. This is Travel Oregon's North Star. Our marketing efforts have been a place where we've been able to be intentional in prioritizing inclusivity and diversity. Through the creative process of our next inspirational advertising campaign, we hosted focus groups to ensure we're developing content that aligns with our mission of inclusivity. Travel Oregon's Christina Tuckman is here to tell us more.
Thank you very much, Todd, and I'm honored to share about the focus groups we conducted. As a member of the Asian community who identifies as mixed race and a great-granddaughter of Chinese immigrants who came to Portland in the early 1900s, this work holds a really special place in my heart. Now, as Todd mentioned earlier, our next advertising campaign, or the third installment of Only Slightly Exaggerated, will showcase the people and cultures that make Oregon a magical place to live and visit. And as we developed the creative for this campaign, it was extremely important for us to gather perspectives and input from diverse communities. We wanted to listen to travelers share about their experiences in Oregon and also learn how to make our advertising more inclusive. So to accomplish this, we conducted 6 virtual focus groups with people from diverse communities, including those who identify as Black, Indigenous, people of color, or BIPOC, LGBTQIA+, or those with disabilities. And in the focus groups, we showed examples of our advertising creative and asked questions such as, what can be tweaked to make it feel more welcoming, or what has been your overall experience when you traveled around Oregon? We held over 7 hours of valuable conversations, and I could easily spend the next hour discussing the findings. However, I will share just 3 key takeaways with you today and how they impacted the creative for our campaign. So first is the importance of representing different cultures and traditions authentically and stepping back for diverse communities to tell their stories. We have a scene in our fall campaign that features the Pendleton Roundup. And as we developed this scene, we met with the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla for input and created space for them to define how they want to be represented. And second is the importance of creating stories specific to the group that we are trying to reach. We heard there's a difference between welcoming to all and welcoming to me. So within our campaign creative and in additional content on social media and our website, we'll showcase real Oregonians from diverse communities, such as Zume Samard and her Portland food cart Stretch the Noodle, and George Fletcher, the groundbreaking Black cowboy that competed in the Pendleton Roundup in 1911. And third is the importance of showing interactions between people of different races. For many, sameness feels unwelcoming and it doesn't accurately represent their communities, which are often a mixture of multiple communities. Therefore, throughout our campaign, you will see interactions between diverse communities, including a winery scene, which features 2 couples that are both mixed race. Now, these focus groups are only one piece of our inclusivity efforts within the marketing team and within Travel Oregon. We understand there is still much work to do until barriers are removed from all travelers, and we remain committed to using our advertising to represent and amplify a diversity of cultures and people.
Thank you so much, Christina, for your personal and professional dedication to this important work. And thank you to the entire marketing team for your commitment in helping ensure our campaigns are authentically welcoming to all who live and travel in Oregon. Another place where our strategic planning is making a substantive change is regarding the key performance indicators, also known as KPIs, that we're using to inform and develop our programming. The vision that guides our work is a better life for all Oregonians through strong, sustainable local communities that welcome a diversity of explorers. We need to check in with Oregonians to see if our work is in alignment with their needs and get a pulse check on our residents' sentiment about tourism in their community. With that, I'll welcome LaDan, Travel Oregon's research analyst, who will speak to this new KPI that will help us ensure that we are producing work that best serves our industry partners and Oregon's residents.
Thank you, Todd. I could not be more excited to share about this KPI. I spent most of my time at the PhD program studying and writing about resident sentiment, and I'm very excited to put this knowledge into practice. We believe that residents play a vital role in the sustainability of Oregon as a destination, and we are looking forward to including their input in our programming and budget decision-making. In our research, we will be measuring resident sentiment in 4 main areas. They are the following. First is residents' feelings about their own community. Many communities are changing in response to massive shifts brought on by COVID-19. These changes have created safety concerns, fear, and resentment towards tourists and tourism among residents of destinations. Understanding residents' feeling of welcome is crucial for the recovery of Oregon. Second is residents' perceptions of tourism impacts. Residents have both positive and negative perceptions about how tourism impacts their community. In one hand, they might consider tourism as an essential economic driver. On the other hand, they might associate some social problems, such as traffic, with tourism. Third is resident support for tourism. Resident support for tourism growth can directly impact the success of the tourism industry. An example would be support for development of a tourism product in their community, like a new trail. Last but not least is residents' interaction with tourists. Residents can create positive experiences for tourists and increase their satisfaction, which can lead to return visits or positive word of mouth. This new research will provide a comparison of regional and statewide responses, and we will be able to track resident sentiment over time. We plan to collect the data via quarterly survey and intend to share the results via our research dashboard so that our partners can monitor the change over time as well. We plan to launch the survey later this summer, and we'll have the first report available on our industry website this upcoming October. Identifying key trends and challenges will allow Oregon to better develop strategies to positively engage with local community members on key impacts that are important to them. This KPI will be a key component of both our current rebuild plan and upcoming Transformational Strategic Plan. We are excited to use this data to ensure tourism growth is sustainable and working in partnership with locals to manage potential tourism pressures.
Thank you, LaDan. Your work to ensure that we're tracking progress on reaching our desired outcomes is invaluable and so very helpful. As I bring this morning's keynote to a close, I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you again to the 3 members of the Travel Oregon team that presented here with me this morning. And also a thank you to the entire Travel Oregon team. It's an honor and a privilege for me to work alongside some of the most dedicated tourism professionals I know. It's not lost on me that our own team, as members of the tourism industry, experienced challenges and loss these past 15 months as well. To the staff who are no longer a part of the agency, I thank you for your time at Travel Oregon, and I'm grateful for your work on behalf of Oregon and our tourism industry. Together as Travel Oregonians in support of the tourism industry, I am forever hopeful of our trajectory, and I look forward to the future as we remember and honor the past. Today we have an exciting lineup of informational and engaging programming in store for you. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that with loss and frustration comes opportunity and room for growth. Our hope is that you find inspiration to continue to push forward towards rebuilding and transforming Oregon's tourism industry. I'm also encouraged and optimistic that we are finally in a place to begin activating our plans for economic recovery. We know there is pent-up demand for travel, and Oregon is well positioned in offering wide open spaces and enriching experiences that travelers from around the world have been dreaming about during the pandemic. From exploring the entirety of Highway 101 along the Oregon coast to experiencing the state's forests and mountains, the richness and diversity of Oregon's landscapes and warm hospitality of main streets and downtowns are here to welcome them. As we go forward from today, let's take what we've learned from the challenges of 2020 and use it as an opportunity to reimagine tourism in Oregon. I'm looking forward to working with you, our tourism industry partners across the state, as we create an equitable and welcoming destination and work toward economic recovery and resiliency for all. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Teresa O'Neill, the Vice President of Global Strategic Partnerships, to lead us through an inspiring fireside chat with Olympian and New York City Marathon winner, Shalane Flanagan, and author and chef, Elise Kopecky.
In the opening session, you heard it's been a challenging year, and we're now ready to reimagine and welcome inspiration. Oregon's bounty and landscapes allowed us to be outside, support friends and neighbors, and be resilient. I'm honored to now introduce two inspiring women who've supported each other for many years. Shalane Flanagan, an Olympic athlete and winner of the New York City Marathon, and Elise Kopecky, athlete, chef, and award-winning author. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm just going to dive right in to some questions.
Sounds great.
What does it mean to you to be an Oregonian after having lived here for many years?
You know, Elise and I both were brought out here because of work, so we grew up on the East Coast, and I think our relationship with Oregon has, evolved. It was originally for work, and now we've started our families here, and we also have dove into a whole new level of love of agriculture and food. So to me, being an Oregonian is very much being in sync with nature. That's what I think of when I think of Oregon, and the love of rain.
And the love of rain. Great answer. Elise?
For me, it's really truly a home. I grew up in upstate New York and then moved south to North Carolina and spent a good part of my childhood in North Carolina and never really felt like I fit in until I moved to the West Coast and moved to Oregon. And the values in Oregon just match my values, which is a love of nature and outdoors and adventure and food and just a simpler way of life from what I experienced growing up on the East Coast.
Do you have any favorite Oregon experiences, like family travel or any special moments you'd like to share?
Definitely. So many amazing memories from taking my young kids to the coast. They have a blast every time we go to the coast. They want to go 3 times a year. And my son, who's 3, absolutely loves playing in the sand and the beach and looking for crabs. And my daughter, Lily, who's 6, just loves running on the beach and, chasing birds and jumping in the waves.
My family actually has all transplanted from the East Coast. So I have my parents who literally live right up the road, and then my sister who lives across the river. So we're all really close, and we have formed a lot of really great memories now that we're all here together. And we've had the addition of my son in the last year. I'm excited to take him, especially to the mountains. He's already been to Bend a few times to visit Auntie Elise and play with her kids and come to the kitchen and cook with us. But I think my favorite, has been going to the mountains. Elise lives in the mountains, but having lived in Portland, I think my favorite escape is heading towards Bend.
Great. Mine too.
Yeah.
So speaking of being busy moms, what's it like being a New York Times best-selling author, athlete, and a mom? How do you juggle all those responsibilities, especially during a pandemic?
We have good husbands that are very supportive, I think, and family. Both Elise and I rely on our husbands and our parents to really step up to the plate and help us out. Our support system allows us to do what we do. So we're very fortunate, and we have really great, strong communities that support us. And this year, for sure, wasn't easy. Elise and I had many conversations this year where we're I'm struggling. this is really hard. Her kids, you know, were in and out of school. I had Jack, who was a newborn, but there was a lack of socialization that I feel like he missed out on. So we're kind of like reintegrating with age groups. So the fact that we have Lily and Jack just sitting inside our home playing together right now, like, makes my heart so happy. But it's a lot to handle, and like I said, I think the key is like delegating and also leaning into like the support system that we have, and then being able to pick up the phone and call a best friend and be like, I'm struggling, and just getting a pep talk when like we needed it.
That's great. So with the cookbook, I'm just interested, are there any recipes that you emotionally connect with, and why? And are there connections to those Oregon ingredients?
There's so many recipes from the cookbook that my family cooks on a daily basis. My kids grew up on that food. So with writing the first book, I was pregnant and nursing my newborn Lily, who's now almost 7. And the second book, I was pregnant and then nursing my second kid. So it's aligned with their births, and like, so all the food we eat regularly comes from both of our books. That's the food that they know and that they're used to and that they love. And so there's a lot of recipes we make every week on repeat. But I would say for Oregon, we try to use Oregon-inspired ingredients like hazelnut flour in our superhero muffins. So we have a strawberry rhubarb superhero muffin in our next book, which is called Rise and Run, and comes out next fall. And that has a lot of good local Oregon ingredients. And then I love our Oregon berry crumble, which has all the fresh berries that you get from Hood River. My family, we go to Hood River every summer to pick blueberries and strawberries, and we also go in the fall to pick apples. So you can do an apple variation on it. So a lot of those ingredients, and then our fans just go crazy for our superhero muffins, and those are always made with fresh local produce and local ingredients.
And a lot of the recipes, like for example, tonight just remind me of like us celebrating together with our family. So tonight we're actually going to be making the Oregon summer salad, which will feature salmon with, you know, blueberries, hazelnuts, and arugula, and goat cheese, and a balsamic vinaigrette on top. And to me, it's like kicking off what we hope to be like a really fun summer of adventures for us and our families.
Wonderful. So just transitioning a little bit to your impact on your communities. How have you both been able to leverage your success to bring a positive impact to your individual communities?
Yeah, I think between being an Olympian and then also a cookbook author and now a coach, you know, personally, I've been able to reach out to a lot of young women. We have a Bowerman Track Club youth program that we run here in the Beaverton, Portland area. And so connecting to young athletes, young boys and girls, that has been a passion of mine, as well as the high school age. My husband works here locally at Lake Oswego High School, so I've been able to interact with those young men and women. And what's beautiful is that our cookbook overlaps with also my knowledge of athletics, so reinforcing fueling and recovery and taking care of yourself and growing young bodies and kind of building these great habits early. And then also just looking at the resources around us and what incredible food we have right here within our communities and farmers markets. And Elise and I have been really lucky to work with some of the best in the culinary world, and Elise has been an incredible mentor to the young woman who works with us on our cookbooks as well. So it's been a great experience being able to work with youth, and then also, you know, Elise mentoring one of the rising up and coming, you know, young cooks as well.
Writing the cookbook has given me an amazing platform to connect with a lot of young women, inspiring them to eat healthier for sport and to avoid diet trends and avoid unhealthy diet traps, and just indulge and enjoy real food and rich food and fresh ingredients. And before the pandemic, I was able to host retreats, running retreats in Bend, and have incredible in-person experiences with women who traveled from all over the country to come to our running and culinary retreats. And then in the past year with the pandemic, we've switched to doing virtual like Zoom cooking classes, and it's been amazing, the turnout. I can teach 300 people at once through these virtual cooking classes versus the retreats where you have to limit it to like less than 20 people. So the pandemic has been a struggle, but it's also given me the chance to teach a bigger audience right out of my own home kitchen from Bend, Oregon.
That's great. So a broader reach,
Yeah.
even though we're not in person. So do you want to talk about some of your role models growing up or folks that have influenced you?
Well, I like to kid and joke often that I chose my parents well. They both were runners, and so honestly, I looked up to my parents a lot. I thought they were the coolest people, and so I wanted to emulate them, and they were hard workers, and I got my love of the mountains and running. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado for the first 6 years of my life, so my love towards running and the great outdoors started with living there, and then also just witnessing their hard work and them being really healthy and active.
So what are your favorite running trails in Oregon?
Most of them are actually all in Bend, so I have to travel quite a bit to get to my favorite trails, but anything along the Deschutes River to me just is, I feel like it's like spiritual, it's a magical place. When I go run there, I feel so connected, and I just feel like it's the best part of the day is just being able to run there. And you know, this last year, the upside was I got to spend a lot more time out on trails, and so I'd say running with Elise and friends in Bend, and then also going up to Mount Hood and kind of exploring kind of the wild, difficult trails up at Mount Hood were really like memories that I'll love forever.
I have so many memories from Green Lakes Trail.
Oh yeah.
Shalane and I had a lot of big adventures running up there. When we run the trails in Bend, it's like, 13 miles of climbing, and for her, it's like a jog in the woods, and for me, it's just like a huff and puff to try to keep up with her. But last summer, it was super fun. We got up at 4:30 in the morning to do our cookbook photo shoot at the top of Green Lakes Trail, so we wanted to be up there in time for the sunrise to get some good sunrise running shots. So running with headlamps on in the dark through the trails up to this peak was just amazing, and getting up there and seeing this beautiful sunrise and the snow-covered mountain peaks, we got some incredible photos and memories from that.
Mm-hmm. That is a pretty amazing trail. That's great. Just in moving on, what would a dream Oregon trip look like for you?
I don't know. Do you have a dream trip? I haven't explored, to be honest, much of like the eastern Oregon, and so my dream is to take my family out there and explore that area. That's like untapped territory that I would love to go explore out there.
Great.
Yeah.
I think I would love to take my kids to explore the farms and really have the chance to go work on a farm or help out on a farm. There's so many amazing in the Willamette Valley or outside of Bend, amazing agriculture and ranchers and farmers that would be a cool experience for my kids.
Sounds like agritourism would work for you. What could you both leave attendees with that might inspire their passion to fuel others and the future?
Yeah, I think after the past year, it can be hard to find your motivation to start over or to start something new. And I like to tell people to just start small. And our cookbook started as a very small idea. We never thought it would actually get published. And now it's grown into 3 books. And 6 years later, we're just doing the final edits on our next book. And so just starting small, and you don't have to have your entire vision of what you want to achieve when you start. You can just figure it out as you go.
And building on that, what's the best advice to keep someone motivated? Think about your worst day. What did it take to muster up the motivation to go out and train?
Yeah. I think more days than not, you don't feel like doing it, to be honest. I think that it's rare that you are always feeling good and always motivated. So I think for me, what I would do often in hard training or anytime I'm facing some type of difficulty is just kind of visualizing what it would feel like, what it would sound like, what it would smell like, all the 5 senses of achieving that goal. That to me helps me reinforce why I'm doing what I'm doing and figuring out your why. I always say know your why all the time, because if you don't know your why, then you don't have the reason to go do it. And so you always have to be thinking about what's your why. But visualization to me is really key. And visualizing, I visualize our next cookbook coming out in October and Rise and Run, and I visualize, what would it feel like to become New York Times bestsellers again? I know what it feels like the first 2 times, but the 3rd time, and I visualize that because I feel like you can manifest things if you start to really visualize and think about it and what it would feel like. And that's motivating to pour work into what you're doing now. If you're grinding through something and you're lacking motivation, that makes it easier to grind through if you kind of are visualizing what it would feel like to achieve the goal.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And as you both know, the tourism industry has been hit hard, and they are struggling, and they are grinding through. And I know hearing from you today will really help to inspire them. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. We're honored to help out with Travel Oregon and see tourism pick back up here. It's an amazing place to visit.
Thank you.
Shalane and Elise, thank you so much for your words of inspiration. And Teresa, thank you for bringing that group together to be able to bring those words of inspiration to us today, and for all your work in envisioning this year's annual Governor's Tourism Conference. Next up, join your friends and colleagues on a 15-minute virtual tour of Portland. You'll even have an opportunity to win 2 incredible overnight packages to Portland, so you don't want to miss this. After you finish watching the Travel Portland video, and you're ready to join your preferred breakout session at 11:15 a.m., you'll just need to click on that Zoom link for the breakout. You can find the Zoom links on the industry website or on that attendee Zoom link PDF that you received by email. Also remember, for those of you who registered by May 26th, you can get out there and support those local restaurants by utilizing the Burgerville or DoorDash gift card to order food from a local restaurant. The promotion you received was based on your geographic location and which partner is available in your area. Thank you all again for all you do for our state and for the role that you play in our road to economic recovery.
Thank you, Todd. My name is Josie Ratnayaka, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager at Travel Portland, coming to you live from the Oregon Convention Center. Although you're not here with us in person, we're eager to give you a glimpse of what's happening in Portland today. Portland looks different than it did over a year ago, and we're thrilled to show you our cherished city. Our tour guide, Heidi, will take you on an adventure throughout Portland, exploring the places you already know and love, and introducing you to new and emerging places that perhaps you've yet to discover. You'll definitely want to stick around for the entire tour, because 2 very lucky winners will win overnight stays at the Nines Hotel and a $100 gift card for Keynote, which is a new contactless payment method created by a Portland innovator that's used by consumers and local retailers. The gift cards can be used at small businesses throughout Portland. Here's how you can win one of those fabulous overnight packages. During your tour, Heidi will reveal the answer to this trivia question. What is the name of the art installation featured in Pioneer Courthouse Square? When you hear the answer revealed, quickly type both the answer and your name into the chat box. The winners will be chosen at random and announced throughout the tour. Before I start giving away these incredible prizes, let's get you on that tour. Heidi is waiting to greet you from downtown Portland.
Thanks, Josie. Hello, everyone. My name's Heidi Burnett, and I'm the owner of Forktown Food Tours, a local tour operator here in Portland. Now, some of you may know me from governor's conferences of the past, or maybe we know each other just by virtue of being tour professionals in the industry here in Oregon. But I bet we all share some similar feelings right now, and that is excitement about this summer and really looking forward to taking guests to our favorite parts of this great state of Oregon. I'm here in Pioneer Courthouse Square, which we locals affectionately call Portland's living room. The square has always been an important place for locals and visitors alike to kick off a trip or just to sit back and relax. And there's a new program in the square that I think you'll really enjoy and will want to add to your next visit to the city. It's called Polka Dot Downtown. A local artist named Bill Will painted a variety of polka dots sprinkled throughout downtown Portland. And while they add a beautiful and decorative element to the city, that's not their only purpose. They also set the stage, if you will, for a variety of local pop-ups featuring our musicians and singers, dancers, and artists. It's a really immersive experience and a great way to support our local art and artists by participating in a pop-up on the street. How cool is that? Our next stop is at the 10Y building, just a few short blocks away. Are you ready to go check it out? Let's go. I'm at the 10Y building at Southwest 9th and Yamhill, just a few short blocks away from Pioneer Courthouse Square. This building is poised to become Portland's best new shopping destination, really showcasing the diversity and resiliency of our city. I'm here with Shay from Prosper Portland, who's going to tell us a little bit about the vision for this building. Shay, can you tell us about this building?
Yeah, so Prosper Portland's 10Y project really seeks to leverage our affordable commercial tenanting program, focusing on highlighting the vibrancy, the strength, and just the amazingness of our local entrepreneurs here in the city.
That's fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening in the window behind us?
Yeah, of course. It's really a partnership between Prosper Portland, Mercatus, and Window Shop, highlighting BIPOC entrepreneurs, so Black, Indigenous, and all people of color, and just some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful artists and goods here. And the beauty of it is you can be here just waiting at the Mac stop and look at these amazing products, and if you're interested, just scan a QR card with your phone and it goes right to that vendor shop.
I love it. I understand that you have two makers as well that you want to introduce and share a little bit of their stories with us today.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And I'm here with Yvonne Perez Emerson, founder of Make and Marry. And not only is she one of the vendors featured in this amazing pop-up, but she's actually the creative director behind a lot of the amazing layout and the design and the beauty of this that we see here. So, Yvonne, could you tell us a bit about your products?
Sure. Make and Marry is a lifestyle beauty and wellness brand, and we create everything in-house. It's all vegan and organic, and also we use full spectrum hemp extract that is grown locally and family run too. And so I'm really happy to be a part of that in that aspect as well.
All right, well, next up, we have Camila Adams, also known as Mimi from Mimi's Fresh Teas. Camila, tell us a bit about the pop-up.
I love my People's Market, just a sense of belonging and giving entrepreneurs highlighting us is very beneficial. And I feel like that's what this window pop-up does too. It highlights a lot of vendors who a lot of Portlanders or travelers might not see. So.
Thank you so much, Camila. Thank you for being a part of this pop-up, and thank you for being a part of Portland. We're very excited to see where Mimi's Fresh Teas goes in the future.
So Shay, My People's Market window shop is through July 25th, but you all have a much larger event coming up this summer, isn't that right?
That's right. It's going to be the first weekend in August. All 3 days of that weekend, we're going to have 80 vendors a day for over 200 vendors throughout the weekend.
Wow, that sounds like a fantastic and enormous event. You definitely have to come to Portland to check that out. I'm here with Sharif Iskander in Amity Artisan Goods, his brand new store in the 10Y building. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a maker and how that led you to this beautiful space?
Well, that goes back about 14 years ago. When I had my first baby, I decided that what is the next step for me? I love art, and I decided that I might be able to do art and also make money and survive over it. So we decided to move to Portland and go to graphic design school about 13 years ago, and here we are.
And also, you're not just carrying your own products in your store, you are carrying a lot of other local artists as well.
That is correct, and our mission is to support underserved artists and makers from around Portland. And most of those guys and gals, they are my friends, and I know them for a while, and I love their arts, and we are kind of complete each other in that sense.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I'm so glad you were able to open this space in the 10Y building. You must be super glad.
I am super glad. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'd like to share a few more places you can shop at 10Y. Oryx Leather by Martin Martinez. His leather creations, like backpacks and purses, have inspired legions of devoted fans across the city. And once you've shopped till you drop, you really need to kick back with a glass of wine at the Crick, which is Abbey Creek Vineyard's brand new tasting location in downtown Portland. What better way to wrap up a day of catching live performances on the street and shopping at the 10Y building? As you can see, Portland is bursting with brand new restaurants, shopping opportunities, live performance venues, all in a COVID-safe manner. And we can't wait to welcome you back to the city. We have one more stop along our way, but before we go, I'd like to turn it back to Josie in our studio.
Welcome back. From live entertainment in Pioneer Courthouse Square to local BIPOC makers and creators at the 10Y Building and My People's Market window shop, incredible things are happening in downtown Portland. Before you return to the tour, it's time to announce one of the prize winners. The correct answer to the trivia question, what is the name of the art installation featured in Pioneer Courthouse Square, is Polka Dot Downtown. Since we're in the first month, or it's the month of June, the first winner is the sixth person who responded correctly in my chat box. And that person is Lisa Farquharson. Congratulations, Lisa. I'll announce the second prize winner at the end of the tour. Now, let's see where Heidi is taking you next.
I'm here at the South Waterfront at the lot at Zydell Yards. This huge space is bordered by the Willamette River, the Ross Island Bridge on one side, and downtown Portland and the Tillicum Crossing on the other. Christina, this is beautiful and a huge undertaking. Can you tell us a little bit about what this is and what people can expect from the performances in the upcoming months?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a socially distanced performance venue that started as an idea and became a reality, and it's a safe space for all of the things we love to do: live music, movies, getting together, all the things we've missed, but in a really unique, iconically Portland, but safe setting. So we're really happy to be down here this summer.
That's wonderful. And so I understand all of these pods are reserved in advance. So when you buy tickets, you are buying a pod and it's your own private place with seating. It's got tables you can really sit back and enjoy, right?
Yes, everything goes in a socially distanced seating pod. You show up with your quarantine, so your people have a place to hang for the whole time. And again, I think it's something that people will enjoy for many years to come, the concept of having your own place to hang.
And then what types of performances can we expect to see this summer?
We've got the Waterfront Blues Festival calling it home down here this summer. We've got Pride Northwest. We've got beloved folks like Liv Warfield and Ural Thomas and The Pain, who've been around forever.
And how long does the programming last?
We're going all the way through the end of September, so we've got 4 full months of bringing everyone back together in a really fun, beautiful setting. We're really excited about it.
I'm here with Colin with the band Federale. And Colin isn't just in a band, he also is the brains behind the music and movie combination that they're offering here at the lot at Zydell Yards.
I book bands that maybe sound sort of like the music in the soundtrack, or perhaps just like evoke a mood that's similar to the mood in the movie.
Thank you so much. This is really fantastic. We can't wait to see the show tonight.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
To the Portland Saturday Market. It's a beautiful day and weekend, and we're so happy to be back. We hope to see you here with us at Market sometime really soon.
joining us today on a tour of our treasured city. You visited iconic attractions, met local makers and innovators, discovered unique shopping opportunities, experienced a live performance at a new event venue, and took a stroll through our hotels. Before we say goodbye, you're probably anxious to learn who won the second raffle prize. Today is the 16th of June, so the person who responded in my chat box with the 16th correct answer is Andrea Taylor. Congratulations, Andrea! As you've just experienced firsthand, Portland is open and ready to welcome visitors. Start planning your trip and come visit us. Tell your friends, family, and visitors to come stay and experience all the exciting things happening in Portland. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you soon.